So this is our 2023 garden prep video. We did this garden last year. Basically it was virgin ground. We plowed it and had a ton of compost and tilled it in and worked it, and we got a lot of in-depth video series from last year, so check that out if you want a little more in-depth video and a little more explanation. You let it go over winter without tilling it in the fall or plowing it. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So this is the first till this season, and then we made the garden essentially wider, 10 feet in each direction, and dump compost. So you'll see this row of compost in front of the tractor, and alongside it, that's on top of lawn. And you can see the ground's a little bit harder. There's actually a piece of rock and ledge right there, and then it'll start digging in again. Now we're on probably 6 to 10 inches of compost or so. It's hard to tell in the video too, but this garden goes uphill in both directions, so north to south and east to west. So right now the tractor's working uphill, and then it's also uphill away from the water quite a bit. This is just to kind of show you a little bit of the holding valve, how it lets you creep and crawl as slow as you want, which is a nice option to put onto these Case Ingersoll tractors. And here we're just tilling in some of the heavy brush and old plants and vegetation from last year, and some of the fresh stuff that was popping through. And the first time around we're tilling right on top of the rows we had last year that we made with a rower, and that worked out really well. Anytime we do a first till, I usually run the tiller in float position and tilling forward. That's the least aggressive, and it lets the tiller bounce around and float over some hard ground or thick brush or rocks or whatever. And as you can see, even in float, it does a great job just chewing up this vegetation and whatnot. I didn't really adjust the tiller in the 3-point hitch. Just kind of threw it on and went. But you can adjust the fore and aft angle and right and left on it. It's fairly level, but since we're working on the hills, it's tough because one direction you can adjust it for, and then if you turn around and go the other way, you're the opposite of what it should be. So I kind of left it fairly level. It is kicked one way slightly. The fore and aft kind of lets you set the aggressiveness a little bit, and you can either open the front of the tiller up and face it up, and it'll actually allow more stuff to kind of come in and have the back of the tiller dragging, or you can do it vice versa and have the front pushing down where it's almost plowing, and let the stuff in the back flow out a little bit. And that's kind of what I'm doing here with this heavier stuff, as you can see. And again, the tiller just chews the vegetation up pretty nice. This is our 4120 we restored last summer with the hydraulic driven Case Ingersoll tiller. You can reverse the tines of the tiller. It's much more aggressive. But usually we don't do that unless we're in some real hard ground or virgin ground where we really need to break up some stuff. The machine just crawls along. Those rear tires are loaded, plus they've got the combine weights on the outside, and it's also got a set of factory D10 cast iron weights inside of those combine weights. And I think there's probably, I don't know, we got 12 gallons in each tire, and there's a fair amount of weight in the back, and then the front's got the suitcase weights. Again, right in there is just all fresh grass underneath. Different view, you see some of this vegetation. It's fairly thick, fairly tall. You're probably a couple feet tall there, if not a little higher on some of it. The back tires are roughly 33 inches, so it just gives you a little bit of perspective. It's up over the hood in some spots. Slow down the tractor even a little bit more than this, and in some shots you'll see it's going pretty slow, and then the tractor kind of stops, and that's the difference of going uphill with the incline. But right here, this is normal speed. The camera's not slowed down or anything. You can see I just adjusted the flow control a little bit more. Right here we're breaking right into the lawn. This is very hard packed ground right here on the bottom of the hill. And the tiller's still doing a pretty good job first time around of breaking it up and doing what it's got to do. front tires of the tractor are basically kind of getting into where last year's garden was. And you'll see a little difference once the tractor goes in and the tiller buries itself in that little softer ground that was worked from last year too. I also get a lot of people saying, you know, can I reclaim part of my pasture, my yard, or whatever? And as long as there's not big roots and trees, you can see this will reclaim land pretty good. If you want to bush hog it down, you can bush hog it down first, but it's absolutely not necessary. It just makes the decomposition process a little faster. 20 horsepower on end handles that tiller very nicely. The 4120's got a bigger pump than some of the other Case Ingersolls, but all the Case Ingersolls have very large pumps in them for the size of their tractor. The pumps in these machines are, you know, commonly found in 30-40 horsepower tractors. And here, just kind of square off the edge of the garden going through the lawn. Like I said, we're about 10 feet out of where the old garden was, so we wanted to add some more to it. And going uphill here. Camera angles really don't show the inclines either way, but you can see it a little bit if you kind of look at the background and whatnot. And then we're going downhill on this one, and then we're about to have a little bit of mishap. It just wouldn't be normal if something didn't happen, right? Yep, there she is. Luckily it was just a loose hose that ended up blowing off the cooler. The hose clamp came loose and blew off the cooler and got all the exhaust. But we were back up and going pretty quick. Here we are squaring off the garden again, and the compost that's piled on top of the lawn. This is kind of virgin ground that's working. You can see the way the tiller is bouncing. Same thing over there. And here we've worked that virgin ground a few times. It's starting to soften up quite a bit. You can actually see the indents the tires are doing. They're sinking. The tiller is doing a nice job making powder out of this stuff. We really like a nice worked seed bed. I know everybody's a little bit different. When I was farming, I was the same way. I just liked, before I planted fields and grass and stuff and hay, I just really like a nice seed bed. So here we came back about 2 weeks later. We like to get the first till down early, let the stuff start breaking down, let the weeds pop up if they're going to pop up, and then we re-till the stuff back in. This again is on that virgin ground. You can see it's still a little bit hard, but it's way better than it was when we first started. We got a ton of rocks out here in southern New England. It's insane. A lot of people just can't fathom what rocks are until they get out here. But it makes for awesome growing and awesome tasting vegetables, because the mineral content in the ground is great with these rocks, and the rocks breaking down, and it's just really good soil in most of southern New England. Just tough working. Got a lot of nice loam. Not much clay up here, a little bit of sandy soil in some spots too, a lot of just nice loam. And again, these machines just do such a nice job, especially on ground that's been tilled before. So usually the second time I'm tilling, or any time after that, we usually just run the tiller in down position with lockdown pressure and stop it from floating, unless we know we're getting into some rocky situations. But it just makes for a nice seed bed, and it really kind of likes to bury itself, and you can see it right here. Of course, this is sped up. We're going a little bit faster than we normally do, but the sped up here. Though we could till at that speed, and there's probably a clip in this video of tilling at that speed without the camera sped up. You can see the pile of the dirt in front that's getting plowed up a little bit. That's because I think I changed the angle slightly on that tiller, and we've got it locked all the way down. So the tractor just pulls it forward and it levels out everything nice. There's a little bit more trash, as we call it, but plant residue and stalk and stuff down here, so we slowed it down a little bit. Here it was piling up a little bit, so sometimes I'll just raise the tiller up, and sometimes just drive it over lightly is enough, or I'll just go back over it and mix it up in, and it breaks up any bit of pile of trash or clumps that happens to be in there. Just slow motion, it's kind of cool to watch. Watch the tines do their thing. But there's no remnants there of any pile of rubble and clumps and stuff, so it just buried it up nice. On the back side of this row where the fence is, it's a big drop off, and that side of the garden can get a little hairy. Here I am hitting the top of the 10 feet that's new again one more time, just to soften that up just a little bit more, and it looks really nice, and it worked itself in, and you can't even tell it was lawn. A few more rocks getting spit out. Here's our custom built garden Hiller Mounder. We put it on the 448 hood scoop that we restored. This is a 1980 model. We did this tractor last year, and wanted to play in the garden a little bit with it. Would have made a little bit easier if we had some front weights on it, or hung the dozer blade off front for a little bit of counterbalance, but it did well. Tires are not loaded yet. They will be. That would have helped a bit too, but even with the 3 stacks of wheel weights, it did really good, and the 9.5 tires. This Hiller Mounder we designed last year and on the whim, and used a couple sleeve hitch scraper blades and made a mount that's adjustable, and the blades can go in or out. They can spin around 360 degrees. You can put one at one angle, the other at another. You can take one right off. It's pretty handy. I've got it adjusted a little different than I did last year, where it's actually doing a little bit of digging, plowing. It's probably a little too aggressive. I'll probably next year back it off a little bit. The angle of the plow is going forward a little bit, where last year we had the angle of the plow, the front of the blades pointed up, where now they're pointed down a little bit, and it just made the hills maybe just a little too tall. But more so than that, it actually started digging up, plowing up ground a bit, and actually got down some. So, but it definitely served the purpose. We made some rows a little bit wider, a little bit narrower. The way this is set up on the edge of the rows, when you start, it takes about 5 feet or so to get the row kind of uniform and started. So we like to go both directions, and it makes for a nice row once you go over it again from the other direction. And plus, it's just fun. It's a learning experience. It's playing, getting to know the piece of equipment a little bit more, and how to operate. And the chain in the back keeps the blades from opening up, but it also makes a really, the purpose of it was to make a really nice level top of the rows. So as you see right about there now, they're started about a full row. So when you come back from the other direction, it's full this way. And you have quite a bit of options on making the rows, how wide you want to make the rows, and also how wide of a path you want to take, as those blades will slide in and out, and you change the angle of them. Way better than trying to hill them up by hand, I can tell you that. And like I said, even this machine's going uphill quite a bit right here. You can tell the front end's a little bit late, but the tractor still does a heck of a job. Tractor's on quite a bit of angle on the top part of the garden. Again, it doesn't show, but gravity wants to pull you down, as does the load behind these blades. with the gravity. So the top row was a little tough working, but we ended up getting it pretty nice at the end. Here we are going back over them just to straighten them out, square them up. It's a pretty big load of dirt that's pulling there. Again, here's this top row that was a little tricky, but we got it nailed down pretty nice. As you can see, a heck of a furrow right there on the edge. I got this one blade on this side angled pretty straight. You can see that. It's actually cutting quite a bit. You can see those tires drop right in that furrow, and we got that leveled out, taken right out of the hill, but you can see how much of that hill is right there. This ground worked up pretty nice and soft and powdery, and you can see the tires dropping a bit and the stuff that's been worked for a while. Here I'm trying to kick this row over. You can see the drop off heading towards the pond, and I was just trying to work this row over. That's a nice thing about this attachment. I can take one blade off and I can work it in either direction and angle this blade, and it worked out pretty good. We got it kicked over quite a bit. I didn't make one more pass after this, and then we squared it up, and it made it leveled it right out, made for a nice row, and took part of that angle away. You can see the front wakes plowing here. This is pulling quite a bit of dirt there. The row is pretty wide, this one here, and it's just soft, powdery. It worked in itself nice. But thanks for watching. You want a little bit more in depth and using the moldboard plows, and last year's we got a series of 2 or 3 or 4 videos, and hauling the compost in with the tractors and the loaders, and be sure to check out the series from last year, and please like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. Check out the website at CaseIngersollTractors.com for all your Case Ingersoll garden tractor information and parts, sales, and service. Thanks again.